My name is Arthur. I'm a horologist. I fix old clocks. I spend my days in a small, dusty shop in Boston, surrounded by things that are broken, things that have stopped. My world is one of tiny, intricate gears, delicate springs, and the patient, steady rhythm of an escapement. I'm good at mending the delicate machinery of others. I was never very good at mending my own. Just hours ago, my wife, Sarah, left. There was no shouting, no grand, cinematic slamming of doors. Our ending wasn't a storm. It was a glacier, a slow, silent, unstoppable drift that had ended exactly as you'd expect. She had simply packed a single, elegant suitcase, placed her key, the one I gave her on our first anniversary, on the kitchen counter, and walked out into the rain. She left behind a silence that was heavier, more suffocating than any argument we ever had. I try to piece together her last words, but they're blurry, out of focus. Something about space and drowning. All I can remember clearly is the clean, sharp click of the suitcase handle extending, and the final, metallic snick of the deadbolt as she locked it from the outside. The apartment feels wrong without her. Alien. Every object seems to scream her absence. The photos on the mantel are suddenly cruel. Smiling faces from vacations in Maine, anniversaries, birthdays, moments that once seemed like solid foundations. Now, they just look like props from a play that's over. I pick one up our trip to the coast. I trace her smile with my thumb and wonder, when did that smile stop being for me? I think of the long, silent dinners where the only sound was the scraping of silverware, the nights she worked late, coming home smelling of expensive wine and in perfume I didn't recognize. The way she had begun to look through me, instead of at me, as if I were a ghost in my own home. The signs were all there, ticking away like the mechanisms I work on, but I had ignored them. I kept trying to oil the gears, to wind the mainspring, believing that love, that history, could hold everything together. Now, the truth is sitting in front of me, cold, hard, and undeniable. I am alone. Sound of a liquid pour. A heavy sigh. I walk into the kitchen. The sight of the single and touch cup of tea on the counter stops me. I'd made it for her that morning. A small, hopeful ritual, hoping it might soften the mood. Open a door. It's cold now. I pour it down the sink. The dark liquid swirls away, like the last 10 years of my life. The sound of the running water is too loud. It only reminds me of how empty the apartment has become. I sit back on the couch, in the dark, trying to keep my breathing steady, but my chest feels heavy, like a lead weight. I want to call someone, to hear a human voice, to be told this isn't the end of everything. But I can't. Who would I even call? Our friends were her friends, and I'm not even sure I understand it myself. Sound of a sharp, sudden doorbell, echoing in the quiet room. I freeze. My first thought, my first, stupid, hopeful, desperate thought, is that it's her, that she forgot her laptop, that she changed her mind, that this was all a terrible mistake. But I dismiss it. Sarah isn't the type to leave and come back. She makes clean breaks. She cuts the thread. Slowly, I get up. I feel like I'm moving underwater. I open the door. Standing there is Eleanor, Sarah's mother. Her presence throws me off completely. She's calm, dressed in a simple dark coat, holding a small, folded umbrella. She looks timeless. Her eyes, though, are not calm. They are the same deep blue as her daughter's, but they hold a deep, knowing sorrow and a quiet, ancient strength. I don't know what to say. Arthur, she says softly. Her voice is like aged wood, carrying a warmth I wasn't expecting. May I come in? I step aside, numb. I'm confused. Why is she here? Eleanor has always been kind to me, in a formal, distant way, but I expected anger. I expected blame. After all, her daughter just walked away from me. It would be so easy, so natural, for her to point the finger. But she walks in gently, not as an accuser, but as a witness. She glances at the empty space on the counter where the second mug should be. She sees it all. We sit in the living room, the same space that felt unbearably empty just a minute ago. I struggle for words. My throat is tight. Finally, I just say it. The only thing that's real. She's gone. Eleanor looks at me, her gaze steady and flinching. I know, she replies. Her tone isn't sharp or surprised. She called me. Before she left, my throat tightens even more. Then you know, she doesn't want this anymore. Eleanor pauses, as if choosing her words with the same care I use to place a balance wheel. Arthur, sometimes people leave, not because they don't care, but because they simply don't know how to stay. Sarah, she's been searching for something for a long time, and it's not something you could have fixed alone. Her words startle me. I had braced myself for a storm of blame. Instead, she's offering me validation, shelter. It's unexpected. It's disarming. I lean back, letting her words sink in. For the first time all night, the crushing silence in the apartment doesn't feel quite so total. Eleanor's presence fills the space. She doesn't press for details. She doesn't dig into the raw wounds. She just sits there, giving me the one thing I hadn't realized I needed. Companionship. Opening parenthesis. Music fades in. Softly, thoughtfully. Eleanor didn't rush to speak again. She has a stillness about her, a quality I'd always admired, but never really understood. She understood that silence, the right kind of silence, can heal. I, on the other hand, felt restless. I kept looking at the carpet, the bookshelf, the rain on the window, anywhere but her face. I wanted to explain, to justify, to say something that would make sense of the last year, but every sentence just collapsed in my mind. Finally, she breaks the stillness. Arthur, she says, her voice so soft. I didn't come here to assign blame. I came because I know you're hurting, and I didn't want you to have to face this night alone. Her words hit me harder than any anger could have. I look up. There's only sincerity in her eyes. Not pity, just sincerity. I loved her, Eleanor, I say, the words spilling out, hot and sudden. I did everything I knew how. I tried, I really tried. Maybe I wasn't enough. My voice cracks on the last word. I lean forward, burying my face in my hands, ashamed of the sudden, raw grief I feel. More than see, her lean closer. Her tone is firm, but impossibly gentle. Don't you dare say that. You gave her your love. You gave her a stable, honest life. You were there for her. Sometimes people just drift away, not because the other person wasn't enough, but because they are searching for something they can't even name. They're looking for a different life, and they burn the one they have to light the way. I take in her words. Then why does it feel like I've lost everything? Why does it feel like my failure? Because you invested your whole heart, she replies. Because you're the one who stayed. And when you give that much, the absence feels unbearable. But Arthur, don't let this convince you that you are less. You are still the man who loved with honesty. And that matters. It matters more than anything. Her voice has such calm strength. I feel something shift inside me. She's not just speaking as Sarah's mother, defending her daughter. She's speaking for me, for the man sitting in pieces in front of her. The hours move strangely. I open up. I talk about the distance, the late nights, the emptiness I tried to hide even from myself. I admit I pretended everything was fine because I was terrified of this exact moment, terrified of the truth. She listens. She just listens. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't offer solutions. She just holds the space. At one point, I look at her, exhausted. I don't know why I'm telling you this. You're her mother. You should hate me. Eleanor shakes her head, a small, sad smile on her lips. Hate doesn't fix anything, Arthur. And I don't hate you. I see your pain, and I know your heart. You were good to my daughter. Perhaps you were more patient than she deserved. You deserve someone to remind you of that. Even if she couldn't, her kindness is a lifeline. For the first time since Sarah walked out that door, I feel a little less alone. I look at Eleanor differently, not just as my mother-in-law, but as a person, a woman, someone who understands me in a way Sarah hadn't. At the end, later, She gets up. She walks into my kitchen and moves with a quiet, familiar purpose, finding mugs, boiling the kettle, as if she belongs there. She comes back with 2 steaming cups of tea. I wrap my hands round the mug, letting the warmth seep into my palm. One Friday evening, I came home from the shop, exhausted, the smell of sawdust and solvent clinging to me. I found her waiting on the porch steps, holding a casserole dish. "I thought you might not have eaten," she said, with her usual gentle smile. My chest eased at the sight of her. "You didn't have to, Eleanor. I wanted to," she said simply. We ate together at the kitchen table, and for the first time in so long, the apartment felt warm. It felt like a home. I found myself watching her, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her garden, the way she moved with this quiet, unassuming grace. I caught myself staring and quickly looked away, feeling a flush of something I couldn't name, afraid of what it meant. Later, we moved to the living room. The fireplace crackled. "You know," Eleanor began, her tone thoughtful, "I was worried about you, Arthur. When Sarah told me she was leaving, I thought you'd just stop, like one of your clocks, that you'd close the shop and shut the world out. But you surprised me." I gave a faint laugh. I didn't feel strong. I felt broken. "But you've made it easier. I don't think I would have gotten through these weeks without you." Her eyes softened, and something unspoken hung in the air between us. We shared stories, not about Sarah, about the past. I talked about my father, and how he taught me to fix my first watch, the patience he had. She told me about her life before she was a mother, about her dreams of being a painter. "What happened?" I asked. She shrugged, looking into the fire. "Life, I suppose. I got married. I had Sarah. There just wasn't room for it anymore. I packed the canvases in the attic, and there they've stayed." The hours slipped by, the firelight flickered across her face. I noticed details I'd never let myself see before. The small lines of kindness around her eyes, the strength in her hands. A thought, quiet and dangerous, crossed my mind. What would it feel like to reach out and take one of those hands? I pushed the thought away, viciously, guilty. But the feeling didn't fade. As the evening ended, I walked her to the door. She turned to face me. Our eyes locked for just a moment longer than normal. It was a look that spoke volumes, a silent conversation I didn't know how to have. "Thank you," I said quietly, "for everything. You've made this place feel alive again." Her lips curved into a soft smile. "You're stronger than you know, Arthur. Don't ever forget that." Our hands brushed as I held the door. The contact was brief, but it sent a shock of warmth through me I couldn't explain. When the door closed, I leaned against it, my heart unsteady. I had expected to feel only grief these past weeks, but instead, something new had begun to grow in the ruins. Something I hadn't seen coming. That night, lying awake, I replayed the evening, the laughter, the comfortable silence, the lingering glance. I told myself it was nothing, just gratitude, just loneliness. But deep down, I knew better. Eleanor wasn't just helping me survive. She was changing me. And one question echoed in my mind, over and over. What if the person who understood me most wasn't the one who had left, but the one who had stayed? Music swells, then softens into a more tense, uncertain melody. The next afternoon, she knocked. When I opened the door, she was just standing there. No soup, no plant, just herself. She looked calm, but serious. My chest tightened. This visit was different. "Can I come in?" She walked into the living room, but she didn't sit. She stood by the window, looking out at the rain, her back to me. "Arthur," she began, her voice steady. "I've been thinking about these past few weeks, about the time we've spent, about our conversations." She paused, searching my eyes in the reflection of the glass. "I didn't just come here for Sarah's sake, Arthur. In the beginning, maybe, but not anymore. I came because I wanted to." I swallowed, my mouth suddenly dry. You've helped me more than you know, Eleanor." She turned to face me. "And you," she said, "you've reminded me of something I thought I'd lost. The feeling of being truly seen." "Arthur," I know this isn't what either of us expected, but I can't ignore what's growing in my heart." Her words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I stared at her, stunned. "Eleanor, are you saying?" She nodded just once. Her eyes were steady, but vulnerable. "I care about you, Arthur, deeply, not as my daughter's husband, not as a project to fix, but as you." I felt a rush of emotions, shock, confusion, guilt, fear, but also, beneath it all, a deep, undeniable, terrifying pull. I had felt it for weeks. I had just refused to name it. I stepped back, running a hand through my hair. This is impossible," I whispered. "Eleanor, you're her mother, people, the world, they would never understand." Eleanor moved closer, her voice calm, but firm. "I've spent my entire life doing what's possible, doing what people understand. I became the wife they expected, the mother they expected, and so have you. You became the husband, the provider. Look where it's gotten us." Alone, in a quiet room, she held my gaze. "Life doesn't always follow the rules we set for it, Arthur. Love doesn't ask for permission. It just grows in the cracks. And it has grown here, between us." I wanted to argue, to tell her it was wrong, that it would only bring more pain. But as I looked into her eyes, all I saw was honesty. All I felt was the undeniable truth that this woman had been there for me, had seen me, in a way no one else had in a very, very long time. I sank onto the couch. She sat beside me, close, but not touching. "I don't want to make this harder for you," she said gently. "If you don't feel this, I will walk out that door and we will never speak of it again. I will go back to being Sarah's mother." But I couldn't stay silent. "You deserve the truth." My mind raced. I thought of Sarah, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the cold, empty space she left. But then I thought of Eleanor, the warmth, the laughter, the way she listened, the way she looked at the gears of a clock like it was magic. The way she had reminded me of my own worth when I felt like nothing. Finally, I spoke, my voice low, almost a whisper. "I don't know what this means, Eleanor. I don't know what we're supposed to do, but I can't deny it. God help me, I can't. I feel it too." Her breath hitched. A single tear escaped and ran down her cheek. And for the first time, I saw her eyes shine with both relief and fear. Then, she said softly, "We'll take it one day at a time. No expectations, no rules, just honesty." Music swells, then resolves into a quiet, peaceful theme narrator. "Arthur, that was 6 months ago. It wasn't easy. Of course it was, and single quotes T. When Sarah found out, she was furious. She said things I won't repeat, foul things. She called me a monster. She called her mother a traitor. She used words as weapons, trying to hurt us both as much as she had been hurt. And friends we had shared for a decade. They chose sides. Most of them didn't choose ours. The world, it turns out, doesn't like things it can't easily label. We were judged. We were whispered about. It was hard. But every time the world pushed against us, every time I felt that wave of guilt or shame, Eleanor would just put her hand on mine and say, "Are you okay, Arthur?" And I would look at her, and I would nod. I sold the clock shop in Boston. I sold the apartment that held so many ghosts. I packed up my tools, my lathes, my box of tiny screws. We live in her house now, an old farmhouse upstate. It's quiet here. The air is clean. We've built a small workshop for me in the old barn. I still fix old clocks. It keeps my hands busy. It keeps me sane. And Eleanor, she paints. I went up to her attic. I opened the windows. I dusted off the canvases she'd hidden for 30 years. And now they're hanging all over the house. They are bright and bold and beautiful. This morning, I woke up and she was already in the garden, covered in dirt, laughing as our new dog, Coxworth, tried to steal her trowel. I don't know what to call this. It's not a story with a simple label. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's ours. But I look at her, and she looks at me, and we are seen. When one chapter closes, Another one really does begin, even if it begins in the most unexpected, most impossible way.